Let us talk about something that can become a real mental burden, especially when you start to really understand money and investing. It is what I call the opportunity cost dilemma. It is this feeling that every dollar you spend today could have been invested and grown into so much more in the future. If you have been on your financial journey for a while, you probably know exactly what I am describing. For those who are just starting out, this concept might seem a bit abstract, but trust me, it is a very real struggle that many of us face. The core of this dilemma is simple. Once you grasp the power of compound interest, once you see how even a small amount of money consistently invested over decades can transform into a substantial sum, your perspective on spending completely changes. You start doing mental calculations for everything, that $100 dinner, that $200 concert ticket, that vacation that costs a few thousand. In your mind, you are instantly converting those present-day expenses into their potential future value. You think, if I invested that $100 today at a 10% annual return over 20 or 30 years, it could be $1,000, maybe even more. So why on earth would I spend it now? This kind of thinking, while rooted in financial logic, can quickly spiral into an unhealthy obsession. It creates a constant internal conflict. On one side, you want to enjoy your life today, have experiences, and buy things that bring you joy. On the other side, there is this nagging voice whispering about all the future wealth you are sacrificing with every purchase. It is a psychological tightrope walk, and it can make simple, everyday spending decisions incredibly stressful and guilt-inducing. I remember when I first fell deep into this rabbit hole. I was in my early 20s, right after the COVID market crash. The market was on a tear, and every dollar I invested seemed to multiply effortlessly. I was watching my investments grow, seeing those numbers climb, and it felt amazing. It was addictive. In a way, I was putting money into solid companies like Microsoft and Visa, and they just kept going up. This rapid growth reinforced the idea that every dollar not invested was a wasted opportunity. During that time, I became extremely frugal, and I mean extreme. My friends would invite me out to bars or for dinner, and my first thought was always about the opportunity cost. I would often decline, telling myself it was better to save and invest that money. It got to a point where I was reluctant to spend money on anything that was not absolutely essential. I even resisted taking former girlfriends out on dates, rationalizing that the $100 spent on a dinner could be working harder for our future. Looking back, I can see how that was not the right approach. It was isolating, and it definitely strained some relationships. But at the time, my income was modest, around $40,000 a year fresh out of college, and every dollar felt precious after covering my basic living expenses like rent, utilities, and car payments. This scarcity mentality, combined with the intoxicating growth of my investments, pushed me further into extreme frugality. This constant mental battle, it is something I still grapple with today. Although I have gotten much better, my mind is always racing, thinking about the next financial move, how to earn more, how to invest more efficiently. I think, especially for men, there is often a deep-seated connection between our financial progress and our self-worth, our identity. We know intellectually that our value as individuals should not be tied solely to our bank accounts. Yet societal pressures and our own internal drives often lead us down that path we want to provide, to build a secure future, to achieve financial freedom. The idea of working for 40-plus years until traditional retirement age is not appealing to many of us in Gen Z. We want to accelerate that timeline, and investing is seen as the primary vehicle to get there. This constant focus on the future, while it has its upsides, can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it fuels my ambition, drives my work ethic, and pushes me to consistently improve my financial situation. I can track my progress, see the tangible results of my efforts, and that is incredibly motivating. But the downside is that it makes it incredibly difficult to simply relax and enjoy the present moment. My mind is always in financial optimization mode, constantly evaluating every decision through the lens of future gain or loss. This constant evaluation can turn positive experiences, like a fun dinner or a vacation, into sources of anxiety, because I am always thinking about what that money could have been doing if it were invested. It is like my brain automatically calculates the missed compounded returns. You do not want to live in a state where every purchase is accompanied by guilt. You do not want to constantly question if you are sacrificing your future or setting yourself back with every single spending decision. This kind of mindset can be incredibly draining, making you feel perpetually stressed about money, even when you are in a good financial position. I have experienced this firsthand. Whether my net worth was $20,000 or $200,000, the underlying struggle remained the same, just at a different scale. The urge to invest more, to optimize further, never truly disappeared. One significant negative consequence of this intense focus on future financial optimization is the tendency to delay experiences. For years, I dreamt of traveling to Europe, but I always found a reason to postpone it, telling myself I needed to save and invest more. It took me a long time to finally book that trip to Italy, which I discussed in my last video. This pattern of constantly pushing the goalpost further down the road means you might never truly enjoy your life, never create those precious memories. You risk never feeling financially secure because you are always fixated on a future that never quite arrives, while missing out on the present. That is a deeply negative cycle to be caught in. It is not just big trips either. It extends to hobbies and smaller joys. For example, I have a decent golf swing, and I actually enjoy playing, but I have consciously avoided getting into golf because of the cost. A round of golf can easily be $200. And for me, that just feels too expensive. The opportunity cost calculation kicks in immediately, whereas something like tennis, where I can go to a public court with my fiancé for free, that is an easy yes. It is ironic. Really, financial literacy is supposed to reduce stress and create a sense of security, but for many of us, this heightened awareness of money and its potential can inadvertently create a different, more insidious form of stress, one rooted in constant optimization and perceived sacrifice. I often observe this struggle more predominantly among men. While finance is certainly not exclusive to any gender, I have found that the pressure to excel financially, to be a provider, or simply to achieve a high level of financial independence weighs heavily on many men. As I mentioned earlier, this often links to our sense of identity and self-worth. It is important to remember that true value comes from a multitude of sources beyond just money. Being a good friend, a supportive partner, a kind person, these qualities contribute immensely to who we are, and they have nothing to do with financial statements. However, the societal expectation and our own innate desire for freedom and security drives this intense financial focus. We want to escape the 9-to-5 grind sooner, to have the freedom to choose how we spend our time and energy. This drive can lead to a sense of guilt when we relax or spend on leisure. We fear falling behind, we compare our financial progress to others we see online or in our social circles. This constant comparison is not healthy. It reinforces the idea that we are not doing enough, that we should always be working harder, saving more, investing more. So, how do we navigate this? The key, I believe, lies in intentional spending. There is a fundamental difference between mindlessly spending money and spending it with purpose and awareness. The goal is not to eliminate all spending. That is not strictly an investment. That leads to an unfulfilling life. Instead, the goal is to ensure that when you do spend money, it aligns with your true values and brings you genuine joy and fulfillment. For some, intentional spending might mean prioritizing a round of golf with friends, creating memories and strengthening bonds. For others, it might be a memorable trip, an enriching experience, or a carefully considered purchase of something you genuinely desire and will cherish. When you spend intentionally, that feeling of guilt often dissipates. You are no longer just letting money slip through your fingers. You are actively choosing to allocate your resources to things that truly matter to you. This can transform spending from a source of stress into an act of self-care and value alignment. It is also crucial to distinguish between intentional spending and lifestyle inflation. Some purchases genuinely enhance your happiness and quality of life, and that is perfectly fine. Money, in some ways, can buy happiness, particularly when used to create experiences or acquire things that genuinely improve your daily life. However, there is also spending that leaves you feeling empty shortly after the purchase. This is impulsive spending, buying things to impress others, or acquiring items that do not truly resonate with your values. If you can eliminate this kind of impulsive, unfulfilling spending, you create more financial bandwidth for the things that truly bring you joy and add value to your life. Remember, you cannot and should not try to financially optimize every single aspect of your life. That is a recipe for an unbalanced and restrictive existence. We are human beings. We need connection, experiences, healthy food, sunlight, and a sense of community. Not every decision needs to be run through a complex financial model. There is a very real downside to extreme frugality. It can damage relationships, lead to missed opportunities for incredible memories, and prevent you from fully experiencing your youth and energy, all for what, a few $1,000s more in your investment account years down the line, which, as we know, is not even guaranteed. Striking this balance is crucial. I am not going to lie, as my income has grown, it has become easier to spend money without that crushing guilt. Spending $100 on dinner now feels very different than it did when I was 21 and earning $40,000 a year. However, the principle of avoiding lifestyle inflation remains critical. As your income increases, try to keep your expenses relatively flat. If you get a $10,000 raise, perhaps increase your spending by $1,000 or $2, but not by the full $10,000. That is how you continue to build wealth while allowing yourself some well-deserved enjoyment.